All right, looks like things are happening here. All right, looks like things are happening here. Yikes. Yikes. That's better. Okay. So I got a stream going on YouTube and I got a stream going on Facebook. And I'm going to send out a little announcement so people know that I'm here. Not exactly sure how to see what's going on Facebook, but I'll check back every once in a while. All right. It's going a little wacko. Stop. Okay, that's better. All right. Don't know why that happens, but it's a pretty wild thing when it does. Okay, hopefully the audio sounds good. And that looks like the picture's okay. So what I'm going to do is talk a little about Independent Democratic Conference. There was some big news today. Let me send out a little announcement here to my friends on Facebook. Hang on a second. I'm just going to say at 9 o'clock I'm going to talk live. All right. This is looking good on Facebook, actually. Okay, good. Yeah.
So there was just a bed bug on my arm, but I just dropped it. I think we might have bed bugs on our couch. It just fell off me.
Okay, I can't deal with that right now.
Okay. It wasn't huge, it was just a tiny one.
All right, let's see. It's 9:01. I think we're going to get started here, and I want to talk about what happened today with the IDC. I want to talk about the YouTube shooting. I want to talk about a lot of stuff. Thank you for tuning in. If you're tuning in late, or if you're tuning in during the rebroadcast of this, I'm going to clip off the beginning. It took me a little while to kind of get this thing going, but I think I got it working now. Now I can see comments on Facebook. I can't see comments on YouTube. Actually, I probably could. Let me see. YouTube.com/redbluetalk. I'm going to see right now whether or not I can see YouTube comments. There is a way to aggregate all of the comments in one place. I hate that thing. Yeah. Stop. Okay, where am I? Right now, live streaming. Let's take a look at that stream and see if that's coming through loud and clear. It is. And where do I see the comments? Chat is disabled for that stream. Okay, so I'm not going to deal with that right now. If there are comments, let's look at them on... let's bring in the comments to the Facebook stream, because I can see that very easily, and try to make some sense out of what's happening here today. So there's a lot of news. Let's see whether or not this is easy to see. All right, so I'm going to go through some of what's going on here. So, but I hate to be separated from... this is so confusing. I've got this up on 3 different monitors here, and I don't know what you're seeing right now. Hang on. That's what you're seeing. Okay. That's what you are seeing on Facebook. That's what you're seeing on Facebook. Okay. There we go. That's what you are seeing on Facebook. That's okay. All right. So, okay. So what you're seeing on Facebook is the Low HUD article from, this is the Daily News article. This is the Low HUD article. Okay. So you're seeing a little bit later on Facebook. That's fine. I kind of get the idea. So here's what's happening, folks. It is April 4, 2018, and there was some tremendous news today. New York State Senate made an announcement. I'm just going to go through. This is our headlines from 2:21 p.m. It's now about 9:04 p.m. And here's what happened today. Let me send out one more little announcement here. Okay. Share this in a couple of places. If you're on Facebook Live, let me know. Send over a comment or something so that I can see and understand that people are actually out there. It's helpful. Appreciate that. I'm going to share this with another group. Cool. We'll see if we get somebody to come in here and join. So basically, here's how my day went today. I was in the city all day. I was in Brooklyn in the morning. I was in Manhattan in the afternoon. Somewhere around 3 o'clock, I was on the subway. My phone died. I lost battery power. You can never lose battery power because you never know what's going to happen. So normally I would get this kind of a headline buzzed into my phone because I follow certain keywords on Google and whatnot. And at 2:21 p.m., the Low HUD, which is the local Westchester newspaper that I follow, came up with this headline. It said, Senate Democrats to unify behind Stuart Cousins. So, wow, right? I didn't hear about this. I came home at about 6 o'clock, and my wife said, did you hear what happened? I said, no, I didn't know anything about it. Let me read you the headline, wherever it is. Where is it? Come on. You got to click on the article. So we click on the article, and the article says, New York's fractured Senate Democrats. New York's fractured Senate Democrats strike peace deal. All right, Albany. Warring factions of Democrats in the notoriously fractured state Senate pledged to unify Wednesday, ending a nearly 7-year split that was one of the party's biggest impediments to regaining control of the chamber. Huge news. Now, something is going on here because I thought there was already a tentative agreement for the IDC, the Independent Democratic Conference, to come back into the mainstream Democratic fold. So something else is going on. And it says the Senate's 8-member Independent Democratic Conference agreed to dissolve and rejoin the mainline Democrats, coalescing behind Senator Andrea Stewart Cousins, Democrat of Yonkers, as their leader. So Stewart Cousins was, let's just get rid of this. Stewart Cousins was already the leader of the, I guess you would call it the Democratic minority, because there are 23 mainline Democrats, 8 members of the Independent Democratic Conference, and 31 Republicans, and 2 empty seats. There are 63 seats in the New York State Senate, and it's this whole messed up thing. So the announcement says, Senate IDC leader Jeff Klein, Democrat of the Bronx, whose splinter conference formed in 2011 and allied with Republicans beginning in 2013, will be Stewart Cousins' deputy. Interesting terminology, because I was just watching yesterday an interview that Andrea Stewart Cousins did with No Kiki Konst of the Young Turks. and she was referring to Jeff Kline and saying that basically Jeff Kline was a deputy to Sean Flanagan, who's the majority leader, the Republican majority leader in the New York State Senate. So apparently they're using that same terminology now to describe Jeff Kline as a sort of number two person in a newly organized government organization, in a newly organized majority in the state Senate of Democrats. The New Deal appears to end the years-long dispute between the Senate Democrats and the IDC ahead of a pair of key special elections, April 24. Now, I want to kind of parse this through and talk about what they're talking about. So April 24, there are going to be two special elections. Special elections are elections that are they can be called by the governor. They can be called for a whole bunch of different ways and reasons. But we're having two special elections in New York on April 24th. One is to fill a seat that was vacated by George Latimer, who was a Democratic state senator, and in January became the Westchester County executive. So there's a vacancy being filled in a special election, which is not a primary. It's a special general election on April 24th. The second open seat was a seat vacated by State Senator Ruben Diaz, who is a fairly conservative Democratic state senator who left to join the New York City Council. So both of those seats will be refilled. Now, I don't know who's running for the the Ruben Diaz seat. Maybe somebody listening, if anybody's listening, can type that into the Facebook comment box. The candidates in the seat for the George Latimer open position are Shelley Mayer, who is a Democrat, and Killian. I want to say Jill Killian. Maybe I have that first name wrong. She is running on the Republican side against Shelley Mayer. So let's go on and read the rest of this. So it says here the agreement could also help Governor Cuomo ward off attacks from Cynthia Nixon, the Sex and the City actress, who is challenging Cuomo in a Democratic primary and has faulted him for not doing more to unify his party in the Senate. So I'm going to try to parse that out a little bit. I think maybe Cuomo saw that Cynthia Nixon was actually gaining some inertia. And so what they're implying here is that Cuomo was reacting to the possibility that Cynthia Nixon could be a serious Democratic primary contender to him in the governor's race this year. And so he's trying to appease the left branch of the Democratic Party who were impatient with the governors not doing enough to bust up, quote-unquote, the IDC and create pressure to induce the IDC members to become part of the mainline branch of the party. Quote, "Today, what unites us is more important than what divides us," Cuomo said Wednesday. "I want to thank all the individual members for putting their personal interests aside for the greater good and for putting their personal interests aside to unite as Democrats." Now, a spokesman for the Senate Republicans dismissed the unity agreement, calling it, quote, "a desperate attempt to avoid Democratic Party primaries." I don't know who that spokesperson was, but what I think they are saying is that maybe there was a deal. There was some kind of a deal. If the IDC candidates come back into the mainline Democrats and form one Democratic conference, then maybe the deal was, we're going to take the pressure off you IDC members by not pushing the primaries as hard, because there are 7 primary candidates against the 8 IDC members. Each one except for one has got a primary. And if you're running for re-election, you'd rather not have a primary than have a primary. And there's a lot of noise on the left right now that these IDC candidates are creating a untenable situation because they conference with Republicans, quote unquote, and they would say that they don't really caucus with Republicans. Nevertheless, there is some kind of a power-sharing arrangement that left-leaning Democrats perceive as diluting the power of the Democratic Party and the Democratic majority, which there isn't a Democratic majority, but in any event, in diluting the political potency of the left side of the aisle in the New York State Senate. All right, so let's read on. Peace agreement. News of the potential deal circulated a day after Stewart, Cousins, and Klein met with Cuomo and labor leaders in a Manhattan restaurant. And we've heard about these Manhattan restaurant visits in the past. In a Manhattan restaurant in hopes of ironing out their long-standing disagreements. In 2013 and 2014, the GOP shared power with Klein's IDC, relegating mainline Democrats to the minority and cementing a divide with Klein's splinter group. Now, since I'm reading so much, I really need to give credit to the individual that wrote this. His name is John Campbell, at John Campbell, IGAN. Not sure what that stands for. So John Campbell's a writer for the Journal News. So it says here, the New Deal appears to end the years-long dispute. It could have major implications in the closely divided 63-seat Senate, which Republicans currently control by a one-vote margin with the help of another rogue Democrat, Senator Simcha Felder of Brooklyn, who sits with the GOP. Again, news analysis here. Here's what I think is going on. There are 63 seats in the New York State Senate. It takes 32 seats, a majority, in order to pass a bill. So there are 31 Republicans, there are 23 members of the mainline Democratic Conference, and there were, until today, 8 members of the IDC. So if you take the 23 mainline Democrats, add the 8 independent Democrats, you get 23 plus 8 is 31. Am I doing the math right? There are 22. It's not 23. Currently there are 22 Democrats in the main line. 8 IDC members. That's 30. There are 2 empty seats. If the Democrats win both of those empty seats, and they would be backfilling Democrats, so it's likely that they would or will or could do that. That brings them to 31. That brings them to 32. That brings them to 32. There is a problem, and the problem is there's a state senator in Brooklyn named Simcha Felder who is a Democrat, runs as a Democrat, and he votes with Republicans. So what they're saying in this paragraph is that Simcha Felder seat is going to be a critical component to securing an actual working majority in the state Senate. Without Simcha Felder, the Democrats actually only have 31 votes. With Simcha Felder, they get to 32. The Republicans only have 31. The problem is historically Simcha Felder has been a holdout, and he's voted with Republicans very consistently. So that's the story. So really nothing changes, but it now appears that with this agreement, Senator Stewart Cousins can say that she is the leader of the Democrats in the New York State Senate. She can't say majority leader because they don't actually have a majority, but she can consistently say, without an asterisk, without a caveat, that she, Andrea Stewart Cousins, is the leader of the Democrats. All right, so let me read on here a little bit. So it talks about the special elections, which I kind of went over. Senator Simcha Felder's response was, I am only loyal to God. He writes G-D because he's a ultra-Orthodox Hasidic Jew, and they don't write out the word God. I am only loyal to God, my wife, my constituents, and New Yorkers. I don't care about political parties, and more New Yorkers feel the same way. Which, as they say here, Felder did not tip his hand. I think what Felder is saying is, I don't care about a Democratic majority and I don't care about a Republican majority. However, he's voting with Republicans. So, at that point, Simcha Felder becomes the most important person in all of New York State politics, and he will get to decide on an issue-by-issue basis. If it's a split vote, he'll be the decider, which kind of makes him a very important person. Perhaps more important than he should be. So it says here, on Tuesday, Cuomo went on the offensive against state Senate Republicans, blaming them for blocking policy measures favored by liberals and calling for their ouster after 2 key special elections later this month. Calling for their ouster. So he's calling for the ouster of Senate Republicans, meaning that after the 2 special elections are over with, I guess he wants to get rid of Republicans. And I need to come back to this point. So I was talking about this last night on one of the Facebook groups I'm on. It turns out that there are actually 9 state Senate districts where Hillary Clinton beat Donald Trump. Nine Republican-controlled state Senate districts where Hillary Clinton got more votes than Donald Trump. So maybe what Cuomo is getting at there is, let's get past these special elections, win both seats for Democrats, and then maybe if we could just flip a couple of seats from red to blue, then I think Cuomo is trying to say there will be a legitimate working Democratic majority that can pursue this progressive agenda on various issues. So it says here, the governor had previously been reluctant to weigh in on the state's politics in recent years. He reiterated that stance during the state's budget negotiations. There was something here very interesting at the very end, and it talks about the GOP response. State Senate GOP spokesman Scott Rife issued a statement criticizing the Democratic agreement, questioning whether it's a cynical attempt by Cuomo and the IDC to ward off primary challenges. That actually is possible. That is possible. Now, at the very end of the article, I think you get a clue. Cuomo said, quote, "There will be no primaries supported by one senator against another senator." So what I think is going on there is the primary challengers, it's hard to raise money for a primary. It's hard to be a challenger. It's hard to challenge an incumbent, especially since many of these IDC folks are multi-term incumbents. One important revenue stream, if you're running a primary, is other state senators, because some of these guys are either running unopposed or they got big war chests and they can make campaign contributions to the primary challengers. And what Cuomo is saying is, henceforth, that shall not happen, which makes it considerably harder. If it actually is enforced, it would make it harder for those primary challengers to get across the finish line. Now, there was a comment in here from Alex Biaggi. Let me see if I can find it. Here we go. The 7 Democrats challenging the IDC members vowed to continue their campaigns, including Alex Biaggi, a Pelham resident, challenging Jeff Klein. Quote, "Just because now this pressure has forced, parentheses, the IDC to dissolve, doesn't mean that it undoes the 7 years of damage that has already occurred in New York State," Biaggi said. Clearly, this was some kind of a move to take primary pressure off of the incumbent IDC members. That had to be some aspect of this. So that's what's happening with that. Let's take a look at this Daily News article. State Senate, I haven't read this one yet. State Senate breakaway Democrats to reunify with mainline conference, ending long-standing discord. There's a picture of Jeff Klein. Fractured state Senate Democrats are poised to end their long-standing hostilities by reunifying immediately. This was published at 3 o'clock this afternoon. 8 breakaway Senate Democrats who've been aligned with the Republicans since 2011 have agreed to dissolve their independent conference and return to the mainline Democratic conference with, let me check this out here. Hang on one second. I just want to make sure this thing is working the way that I think that it's working. Okay. I think it's working. Hope it's working. Okay. Under the agreement, which was hashed out during a 2-hour meeting on Tuesday with Governor Cuomo, with a little more information here, Representative Joseph Crowley of Queens and influential labor unions, Independent Democratic Conference leader Jeffrey Klein will no longer be co-leader of the chamber. So I wonder how this is going to impact the 4 men in a room thing. I guess the 4 men in a room will now be Andrew Stewart Cousins, so it's now a room with men and women, which I guess is a good thing. and the governor, that's 2, and John Flanagan, that's 3, and Carl Heastie, that's 4. So that room would have 3 Democrats and 1 Republican, which it does now as well. Okay, Jeff said he'd do it for the good of the party. Andrea is committed to doing it. The 2 of them shook hands, and everyone in the room clapped. The IDC has been under increasing pressure since the election of President Trump to break its coalition with the Republicans. The group's members, including Klein, are facing primary challenges. Cuomo has been under pressure to reunify the 2 warring sides from activists from the progressive wing of the Democratic Party. This is not a trivial point. The progressive wing of the Democratic Party are invisible groups and other groups who are Working Family Party, who are organized, and they're really putting pressure on the state Senate to reorganize itself. So there are some real questions here. If you set your own house on fire and watched it burn for 8 years, finally turning a hose on doesn't make you a hero, and that was said by Cynthia Nixon. So she wants to stay in it, but something tells me that part of this part of this reunification deal involves a détente in which the IDC members agree to help Cuomo, and the mainline Democrats agree to work with Cuomo. Listen, you know what my gut feeling is on this whole thing? I think everybody thinks Andrew is going to Washington in a couple of years, and they all want to go with him. That's my gut feeling on what's really driving this whole thing. Yes, there was some primary pressure. There's no doubt that that was real, and maybe that provided some catalyst for the movement toward the mainline Democrats on the part of the IDC. But I think everybody wants, as I'll say it again, I think everybody wants Andrew to go to Washington, and they want to go with him. But the Democrats challenging the IDC members say they are undeterred and will still move forward with their primaries. They can move forward with their primaries, but it's going to be tougher if they don't have financial backing from mainline Democrats like Michael Gianaris and Andrea Stewart Cousins, who have war chests and have the ability to put funding into those primaries. And the unions, who are also a part of this negotiation process, are a major source of funding. And if they agree to back off on funding the primary candidates, that makes it much harder for the primary candidates to be successful. City Controller Scott Stringer, who endorsed 2 of the IDC challengers, said he too is not backing away just because of the deal. I'm not giving them a parade or celebrating, blah, 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 blah. They never should have left in the first place. There's a picture of Andrea Stewart Cousins. I don't know what it says. In these perilous times, our singular focus must be on taking back the House of Representatives, building a durable Democratic majority in the New York State Senate, re-electing Governor Cuomo, and soundly defeating the Trump agenda. Union Vice President Dennis Traynor said. Anything else is a distraction. Well, I guess they found a way to find Democratic unity, but it says here, the deal, according to the source, is not contingent on a 9th breakaway Democrat, Senator Simcha Felder of Brooklyn, agreeing to return. Felder has been caucusing with the Republicans, but hasn't ruled out switching sides. 32 members to control the chamber. So they would work together to help win a coming special election in Westchester County. So now, let's come back to these special elections. Something is going on with this special election in Westchester County. So I live in Westchester County. So here's the story. Shelley Mayer is a state assembly member. She's running for state senate in a seat that was vacated by George Latimer because he became Westchester County executive. So Shelley Mayer is facing a pretty intense race against this other woman, I want to say Jill Killian, but I can't remember if that's her first name. And she was endorsed today by former Governor George Pataki. She's very popular. I think she ran once for this seat before. And I think that there's some concern. They're running a lot of negative advertising against Shelley Mayer. And so a lot of cards have to fall into place. So this reunification agreement is interesting. It is not trivial. It is very serious. It is a major step toward reunifying the Democratic conference in the upper chamber of the New York State Senate. However, it's not exactly a done deal because there are 23. Let me make sure I get this arithmetic right. There are 20. There are. Well, you know what? Let's go to Wikipedia. When in doubt, go to Wikipedia. And let's get this straight because it is very confusing. English and NY Senate. Okay, here we go. There's a great. There it is. That's. You guys can't see it. It's covered up. Wait. Is there some way I can move this over? Shoot. There's got to be. I don't know if you guys can see this or not. I hope that you can. I think you can. Okay, there's a... There you go. Yeah, okay, good. You can see it. So there's this illustration here. There's 23. Here's the facts. Here are the facts right here, okay? There are 31 Republicans, 8 IDC members, and 21 Democrats in the state legislature, in the state Senate. The gray dot at the center of this illustration represents Senator Simcha Felder, and the two light gray dots in the bottom right, they represent the two open seats that I just described are going into an April 24 primary. I'm sorry, an April 24 special election. So if you take the 21 and the 8, you get 29 seats. Simcha Felder makes 30, and the two special election seats would give Andrea Stewart Cousins a statistical majority of 32. So several things need to happen. Simcha Felder has to politically behave like a Democrat. Not clear that that's likely. Both of the special elections need to be won by Democrats, which would seem likely because there are Democrats vacating those positions. But there's a significant challenge, at least in the case of Shelley Mayer. So there's risk there. But let's say both of those things happen. Both the special election seats are won by Democrats and Simcha Felder is cooperative as a Democrat. Then they got it. If any of those things does not happen, then is the deal on or off with the IDC? I don't know the answer to that question, but I think a good journalist needs to ask that question. Now, the other thing is what I mentioned before. Apparently, there are 9 state Senate seats currently held by Republicans where Hillary Clinton beat Donald Trump by approximately 8 or 9 percentage points. I read this on Ballotpedia yesterday. So what I have not heard a lot about is why isn't the Democratic machine going after, why isn't the state Democratic Party putting emphasis on flipping those seats, those 9 seats, from red to blue? I gotta believe that they are. Maybe it's going on behind the scenes. A lot of them are upstate districts. Maybe I'm just not hearing about it, but it hasn't made the kind of news that we have seen about the IDC challenges. So I think that's the next frontier, because if you could turn a couple of those red dots into blue dots, that would almost guarantee Andrea Stewart Cousins would not only become the majority leader, but it would make her very powerful, because then they probably could bring things to the floor that they've legitimately claimed have not been able to get to the floor under the current power-sharing arrangement with the IDC. That is the whole story. So let me just double-check. I don't see any comments on here, but if you've been watching, I certainly appreciate that, and thank you for taking the time to listen to this whole story. This is kind of an exciting day for the New York Senate. Big news, and I'll try to keep up on this and do this again. check out redbluetalk.com. Check out youtube.com/redbluetalk, and it's on Facebook, Red Blue Talk. I appreciate you joining. I try to do a new short form vlog once a week. I'm going to try to get back on the live stream bandwagon, particularly when there's kind of tentpole sort of news going on. And that's it for me. So thank you very much. Good night, everybody.